This discussion is part of Beacon, a series of short films shining a light on disabled, deaf, and neurodivergent writers, and inviting UK theatres to think differently and expand their dialogue with both new and existing voices in writing. The Beacon program asks, how can we sustain theatre if we don't actively nurture the artists that make it happen and who bring the magic to our stages? We might not have all the answers, but let's not be afraid to ask and listen to the writers themselves. Today, we have with us a selection of writers from the Wellspring program of 2021-2022. Wellspring is Vital Exposure's bespoke professional development program for London-based disabled, deaf, and neurodivergent playwrights. Funded by the City Bridge Trust, Wellspring aims to support and profile disabled talent in new writing and foster stronger connections between disabled playwrights and theatres in the sector. The program will soon launch its next round for 2023-2024. I'd like to now invite the playwrights to introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Fatima Sagini. I'm a light brown woman wearing oversized spectacles with black frames. I have a grey round top on and a small diamond ring and a small diamond necklace.
Hi, I'm Gabrielle McPherson, but people often call me Gabby. I am a white blonde woman with a black polo neck on and really big silver hoop earrings.
Hello, I'm Robbie Curran. I'm a short white man with dark curly hair, glasses, and a checkered shirt. My pronouns are he, him, and I am a neurodivergent actor and writer.
Hi, my name is Victoria Taylor Roberts. I'm a white woman in my early 50s. I have long brown hair parted in the middle, and I'm wearing a very stripy sailor type top.
I'd like to take the opportunity right now to introduce our fantastic BSL interpreter for this evening, Sumayya Si-Tayeb. Thank you so much, Sumayya, for interpreting for us. The writers have been invited to reflect on why writing for the theatre is important to them, what changes they would like to see made in the sector, and the support from organizations which would enable their practice to thrive. Each playwright's response was unique, but there were also some common themes that came out of these conversations, and these themes will anchor the questions which we explore as a group this evening. The first point of discussion is the term emerging artist, sometimes helpful, sometimes controversial, but I'm going to open up an opportunity for us to discuss this term, emerging artists. When is it helping us? When is it maybe feeling like a label that's imposed on us or holding us back? How do you think that being called an emerging artist is impacting your opportunities as a writer? I open this up to the Wellspring writers to discuss.
It's an area for me that is really weighted. I got my first TV commission nearly 14 years ago. In the same year that I gave birth to my daughter 14 years ago, I got my first full-length stage production. And I am still an emerging writer because I haven't had a full production since that time. And I'm really tired of being an emerging writer. It's like, basically, I feel like Miss Havisham, the woman sitting at the table staring at the wedding cake that never was. I'm really tired of being an emerging writer for the simple fact that I fall out of the thrill of being a new writer to develop, or being an established writer who's a safe pair of hands as a piece of theatre for bigger theatres. Emerging writers live in this wonderland between the two, and people are a little bit intimidated about what to do with us. We're left in a really difficult position where there's not a lot of funding for us as emerging writers. We get that the privilege of saying that we are on our way, but on our way to where? There is no destination set for us, and there's just sets and sets of hurdles again and again for us, with no kind of nothing that we can claim in terms of a pathway, because there's no funding for us.
I think emerging writer is sort of a job title of some sort. And it's a really elusive one. So I'm only 2 years in, and I have the good fortune and privilege of calling myself an emerging writer. But where you are a freelancer and not yet signed, like how many paid jobs and when I get an agent do I stop, when do I officially become a writer? And I think because everything is on a commission or is on a job, and there isn't a sort of a HR department, if you will, giving you an annual review of your career. I mean, you will get some off your agent, but each project you would hope is moving you forward. And of course there's your bread and butter projects that you have to do, where you're just a gun for hire. It's sort of not a path that is quite clear and looks different to everyone. And one, because of funding and schemes and the way that sort of like TV and theatre moves, it changes every year. So like sort of like Victoria was touching upon it about like there becomes one lane, but the rules of the game keep changing with that lane. And so it's quite reasonable. I hear it from performance artists. It's quite reasonable for them to be called an emerging artist after 10 years with like a catalogue of work and travel and like awards. And I'm like, that's like a lot of work to still not it's kind of like you're on your way to get the official stamp, but how many things, how many credits, how many verifications do you need before you get it? And you know, and I'm you know, it is a case of, if you call yourself an emerging writer, it means that you can get on schemes and writing programs, but it limits you from things that you actually can do too.
To be emerging for more than a decade is essentially like being a bud trapped in its casing. So I wish that of none of you. None of you do I wish that. Emerging is a transitional verb, and it should be seen as such. And I think that we need to stop treating writers who perhaps aren't being paid or don't have a CV of a particular type of work behind them. We need to stop calling them emerging. What we need to start calling them is perhaps uncommissioned, or currently not commissioned, or other words other than emerging, because emerging sounds as if you're still learning your craft. Many of us have learned our craft and we're very good writers. So emerging sounds like that's on us, and actually it's not, it's on the industry. The industry hasn't given us a break yet. We're emerging because the industry hasn't given us a break. That's not on us. Many of us are very good writers here. I've listened to my cohorts and they're amazing writers. They're emerging because they're waiting for the industry to give them a break. I think that's a really important thing for us to establish.
I also think to look at it sort of from a mental health perspective as well. I think, you know, as we've said, emerging artists is a very, as Fatima said, it's a very sexy term. It's got a lot of excitement to it as a term. It's kind of gives off the vibe of, oh, you're ready to go, you're fresh off the boat. I don't know if anyone else has felt this sometimes, but it means you can feel like you have quite a lot of pressure to always have to get things right. You know, I think more honesty about on all fronts with the, you know, from emerging writers to emerging writers about what processes of these things are can clear the fogs of anxiety out of the way a bit, and then actually allow us to work with you know, sort of more focus on the work itself, which is ultimately what we're doing. You know,